Her poignant journey from Ohio reveals a tale of exclusion at a reunion, prompting her to reclaim every dollar spent and transcription provided by TurboScribe.ai. Upgrade to Unlimited to eliminate this notification. The group photo was shared on Facebook. There stood my son, my daughter, my grandchildren, and even my ex-husband's second wife. Yet I was absent. They remembered to extend the invitation to me. They made the decision to refrain from doing so. My name is Marilyn Foster, and I am 67 years old. After dedicating 42 years to the school system, I am now enjoying my retirement. I consistently took the initiative to organize all events, including birthdays, holidays, and gatherings. My home once served as the heartbeat of our family, until my presence was no longer required. On a serene Sunday afternoon, my neighbor Karen approached, tablet in hand, chuckling about my upcoming reunion. I offered a polite smile, though confusion lingered within me. She then turned the screen in my direction. A family reunion picnic unfolded at Liberty Park in Cincinnati. With tables adorned in vibrant red, white, and blue, children joyfully dashed through sprinklers, while folding chairs were filled with my relatives. I gazed intently. My son David, with his arm around his wife. My daughter, Rachel, is joyfully holding a drink and sharing a laugh with her cousins. Even my 3 grandchildren. I had not been informed by anyone. No text, no call, nothing at all. What's even more frustrating, my funds were utilized to support it. While I may not possess great wealth, my spirit of generosity has always been a defining trait. Several years ago, I established a shared family account to assist with emergencies and special occasions. I held the primary responsibility for the account. Although access was granted to everyone, I never anticipated that it would be used as a means to exclude me. For many years, I contributed without tracking my efforts. I financed college textbooks, provided grocery assistance during challenging periods, and contributed to the down payment on David's first home. Rachel required dental surgery. I have completed the payment. Isn't that what mothers do? After all, that evening, I found myself seated at the kitchen table, gripping my ceramic mug with unsteady fingers. Chilled tea. I experienced a profound sense of humiliation, not due to their enjoyment, but because they had proceeded without my involvement and with my financial resources. I reached out to David. No response. Rachel responded, indicating that it wasn't a significant issue, merely something hastily assembled at the last moment. However, the decorations, food truck, and matching shirts conveyed a contrasting narrative. They had deceived, and then manipulated my feelings, making me question why I felt hurt. At that moment, a profound change occurred within me. I have dedicated my life to sacrifice, prioritizing others above myself. And this is the outcome? This is how they chose to repay me. I had no intention of screaming, begging, or crying. No, I intended to remind them of the individual responsible for constructing the table at which they were now enjoying their meal. It all started with a single click. I acted with careful consideration. Initially, that was not the case. I methodically closed the account, confirming each step with a sense of calm, as if I were settling my bills. Absence of drama, absence of warnings, only silence prevails. After that, I rose from my seat, tended to my plants, and prepared a sandwich. That is the challenge of enduring prolonged neglect. Ultimately, tranquility transforms into your greatest asset. The following day, my phone buzzed with 5 calls before midday. David, Rachel, and my niece Madison are all reaching out to say hello. However, I was aware, they had observed. David was the first to break down. Hi Mom, I have something unusual to share. The family card was declined when I attempted to pay for Leo's camp deposit. Are you aware of the current situation? I took a moment to pause. Oh, really? I expressed my thoughts, echoing his sister's words back to him, believing it wasn't a significant issue. This was assembled rather hastily at the last moment. Silence enveloped the room, followed by hesitant stammering. The focus isn't on the reunion, rather. It centers around David. I maintained a steady tone. Respect is fundamental. As the evening unfolded, I found myself seated on the porch, observing the sky transition into a warm hue of orange. I had moved past my anger. I communicated my message clearly. This was not merely a picnic. This was a reflection on my journey toward becoming valuable, rather than being cherished. They perceived me merely as the woman responsible for the checks, the one who resolves issues, the provider. And once they no longer required my assistance, they removed me from the equation. The pain I experienced runs deeper than I will ever reveal to them. However, I had endured more challenging experiences. I successfully balanced raising 2 children while maintaining a full-time job and attending night classes. I navigated the challenges of my husband's infidelity and the presence of his self-satisfied second wife, who entered my grandchildren's lives as if I were merely a caretaker. I have absorbed a great deal throughout my life. I had reached my limit. They reached out once more. Rachel's tone carried a chill this time. "Are you truly imposing a penalty on us by closing the account?" She reacted sharply. "That situation is unjust to others." I almost found it amusing. "That's amusing," I responded. "I did not receive an invitation. Why should everyone else take precedence over the individual who ensured those bills were settled?" She ended the call. No apologies. No trace of regret. It was at that moment that the true unraveling commenced. I began receiving small messages from family members I hadn't been in touch with for quite some time. "Hello Aunt Linda. I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to check in and see if you are still offering assistance with gas cards this summer. Hello. Mom mentioned that you might be willing to contribute towards the Airbnb at Lake George." With each response, I provided the identical message. "I am no longer overseeing family support funds. Kindly reach out to David or Rachel for assistance. Allow them to bear the burden they previously implored me to support. Please allow them to respond to the questions. Allow them to take the spotlight. If they desired my invisibility, I would fulfill their request." Nevertheless, my journey was far from complete. The account served as the foundation for family logistics. Phone plans, grocery subscriptions, and even the Hulu account are all linked to it. Gradually, I began to eliminate my name and cancel my payments. On the day of his crucial Zoom pitch, David's phone plan unexpectedly ceased to function. Rachel sent a message in all capital letters. "Netflix is currently experiencing issues. Have you taken any action?" "No, dear. You did something." I had no intention of seeking revenge. I simply wished for them to recognize me not merely as a source of financial support or a peripheral presence, but as their mother, as an integral part of their family. However, the reality is that if you erase someone for an extended period, you may find it difficult to recognize them upon their return. I had consistently been the safe haven for them. At that moment, I became the reflection. It's intriguing how one's thoughts evolve when faced with a more confined reality. I once organized my entire schedule around my family, baked cookies for school fundraisers, sent birthday cards accompanied by crisp $20 bills, and hosted Thanksgiving dinners that left me with sore feet yet a heart full of joy. In the quiet of my days, I sought to introduce something fresh. The memory of that moment flooded back as I came across the photo online. The vibrant red checkered tablecloths, the joyful laughter of the grandchildren, the coordinated shirts, a family seemingly oblivious to the presence of the woman who held everything together. They believed I would diminish. They assumed I would remain at home, dwelling on my regrets and watching reruns. Instead, I took out my spiral notebook and began jotting down names, not theirs, but my own. I chose to organize an intimate gathering, a reunion of my kind, defined not merely by blood but by the bonds of the heart. Former colleagues, neighbors who provided me with soup during my illness, friends from the widow support group, and even a past student who once expressed, "You changed my life." These individuals recalled me, not for my contributions, but for my essence. I reserved the community center located downtown, the very one that David's wife previously described as too dilapidated for our preferences. The charm of the old brick walls and the elegance of the wooden beams captivated me. I organized catering featuring authentic Southern comfort food, including fried chicken, collard greens, and biscuits. I financed it independently, from my personal account, the one they were never aware of. I then printed invitations, elegantly designed cards adorned with simple gold lettering that read, "You are invited to a gathering of gratitude and grace hosted by Marilyn Foster." No RSVP needed. No coordinated outfits. No forced grins. After dedicating several days to the task, I meticulously assembled gift bags, each containing a handwritten note, a cherished photo memory when available, and a small jar of homemade jam. I refrained from sharing any information about it online. I chose not to inform David or Rachel. They did not receive an invitation. The day arrived, and it was nothing short of perfect. A gentle breeze flows in, while golden sunlight streams through the tall windows. One by one, my guests arrived, each bringing flowers, warm hugs, and captivating stories. It may not have been loud or grand, but it was undeniably authentic. At one moment, Mrs. Patterson, my former neighbor from our time on East Elwood, embraced me and remarked, "Linda, you continue to be surrounded by so much love. Never allow your children to persuade you otherwise." That moment nearly overwhelmed me. Yet I managed to smile and gently squeeze her hand, acknowledging her truth. I never felt the need to plead for a place at another's table. I had constructed my own. That night, I found myself in bed, scrolling through social media, but there was no sign of David or Rachel. However, I then caught sight of it. A message shared by my granddaughter. "Rachel, I truly wish Grandma could have attended the reunion. Her absence was palpable." My eyes brimmed with tears. Not from regret, but from a profound sense of hope. Perhaps she had not let it slip from her memory. Perhaps she was beginning to recognize the imperfections as well. Then arrived the unexpected twist. The next afternoon, there was a knock at the door. David stood there, a grocery bag in hand, appearing more fatigued than I had ever witnessed him before. "Mom, we should have a conversation." David sat opposite me, his hands tightly clenched, gazing intently into the steam rising from the coffee I had just set before him. My son, my eldest child, the very same boy who once wept in my lap after injuring his knee. A man in his 40s, appearing as though he has exhausted his vocabulary. Excellent. The moment had arrived for me to utilize my own. "I understand that you're feeling upset," he began with caution. "Given your back issues, we assumed that traveling might not be preferable for you." I inclined my head, narrowing my gaze. The reunion was just a short 20-minute drive from my home. He felt a rush of color to his cheeks. "Rachel suggested that it might be overwhelming for you. And I don't know. Everyone sort of assumed." "No," I stated, my voice unwavering yet incisive. "You didn't assume. You decided." He blinked. I leaned forward. "You all decided I wasn't needed. You used my money. You made memories. And then you posted about it like I was already dead." David opened his mouth, but I raised a hand. "Do you have any idea how that felt?" He looked down. "I'm sorry, Mom. It wasn't supposed to be personal." I felt something in me snap. Not in rage, but in sorrow. "David, when did I stop being personal to you?" I stood up, walked over to the bookshelf and pulled out an old photo album. I flipped through pages of pool parties, holiday dinners, school projects, me holding babies, me baking cakes, me showing up. I said it in front of him. "I have spent decades being the one who showed up. Even when your father left. Even when I had nothing. I made sure you and your sister never felt it. And now you exclude me from the very thing I lived my whole life for. Family." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "I didn't think it would matter this much." I nodded slowly. "Of course not, because I've never let it show when it mattered to me. I just kept giving, paying, solving." He looked at me, his expression beginning to crumble. "I didn't mean to hurt you." I nodded again. "But you did." We sat in silence for a long time. Then he asked, "Is this about the money?" I laughed, soft, bitter. "It's never been about the money. David. That was just the tool you used to forget me." I paused. "But now that you ask. Yes, you don't get to use what I built to shut me out." He swallowed hard and I could see the guilt washing over him. But guilt wasn't what I wanted anymore. I didn't need him to be sorry. I needed him to remember. Remember who stayed, who sacrificed, who mattered, even when it was inconvenient. He finally asked, "What do you want from me, Mom?" I looked at him, really looked. This man I had raised. This man I didn't recognize anymore. I want the truth. I want to know when I became too much trouble. Too embarrassing. Too old for the pictures. He didn't answer, which Karenly said enough. He stood and before walking out, he muttered, "I'll talk to Rachel. Maybe we can fix this." I shook my head slowly. "No, David, I'm fixing it. You'll just have to learn to live with the cracks." A few days passed in silence. No calls, no texts, no apology. But then on a quiet Thursday afternoon, my doorbell rang, and this time, it wasn't David. It was Rachel, my oldest granddaughter, 14 years old, all awkward limbs and anxious eyes holding a small paper bag. "Hi, Grandma," she said softly. "Mom doesn't know I'm here." I blinked, heart catching in my throat. She stepped in before I could speak and looked around the living room like it was sacred ground. "I brought you snickerdoodles," she mumbled, handing over the bag. "I baked them from your old recipe." I smiled as I opened the bag. They were a little overbaked, but the gesture warmed me deeper than anything had in weeks. "Thank you, sweetheart," I said, gesturing for her to sit. We sat across from each other, the silence thick but soft. Finally, she looked up and asked the question I knew had been waiting on her tongue. "Why weren't you at the reunion?" I closed my eyes for a second, steadying myself, not to protect me, but to speak in a way that didn't damage her. "I wasn't invited." "Rachel." Her eyes widened. "What? But why?" I gave a small, sad smile. "That's something you'll have to ask your parents. But the truth is, sometimes grown-ups forget who's always been in the background until the background gets quiet." She stared at me for a long time. Then she whispered, "It didn't feel right without you? Mom said you were busy. But I knew that didn't sound like you." My heart cracked open. "You noticed that?" She nodded, biting her lip. "You're always there. For birthdays. For school plays. You always remember what I like. Even when I forget." I reached out and took her hand. That small hand that used to fit in mine so easily. "Thank you for coming, Rachel. I want you to always remember something. Okay?" She nodded. "You don't have to pick sides. You don't have to understand everything right now. Just promise me you'll always pay attention to how people make you feel and how they treat others who love them." She leaned in and hugged me tightly. That teenager who was too cool to even wave goodbye at drop-off just a year ago. Now holding on to me like she was 5 again. "I love you, Grandma," she whispered, "even if they act dumb sometimes. I don't forget." Tears filled my eyes. "I love you too, sweetheart, always." Before she left, she asked if we could make jam together again sometime. "Not for anyone else," she said, "just for us." I laughed. "It's a date." After she left, I sat on the porch with a warm cookie and a cold tea. My phone buzzed. A message from Rachel. Did Rachel stop by? I didn't reply. Not because I was cruel. Because sometimes silence speaks louder than any confrontation. They wanted me silent for the reunion. Now they'd learn what silence felt like. But in the quiet, I realized something important. I hadn't lost everything. I hadn't lost everyone. I still had a legacy. A thread. A spark. And that was enough to keep my fire going. The morning after Rachel's visit, I woke up lighter. Not happy. Not healed. But clear. For the first time in a long while. I felt power humming through my bones. Not the kind that shouts. But the kind that doesn't need to ask twice. I pulled out a manila folder from my file cabinet. Inside, account numbers, documents, legal letters. Years of quietly managing things no one else cared about. I'd set up the family mobile plan. The car insurance bundle. Even David and Rachel's shared roadside assistance account years ago when they were both too broke or too distracted to manage it themselves. They treated me like a retired woman with nothing better to do. But they forgot. I wasn't just a mother. I had been the architect of their comfort. It was time to dismantle it. Brick by brick, I started by transferring everything that still had my name off. I canceled the bundled phone plan. Their numbers went dark within 24 hours. I suspended the insurance policy I'd paid into. The automatic payments for their streaming, grocery apps, kids' tutors, all gone. Then I made one final call to my attorney. He had drafted my will 10 years ago. Back when I still thought the biggest tragedy would be dying before seeing my grandkids graduate. Now I had a new request. I updated the beneficiaries, removed David and Rachel from every asset they assumed would fall in their laps. Instead, I redirected everything, my home, my pension account, even my life insurance policy, to a trust for Rachel. Accessible only when she turns 25 and only if she remains in good standing. By my definition, not her parents. I added a note to the one who showed up. That weekend, I invited a few close friends to a quiet garden brunch at the Botanical Center. I made sure to dress elegantly. I knew Rachel's friend Caroline would be there. She always was when something was worth gossiping about. I welcomed her with a warm smile and said, loud enough for others to hear, "Isn't it peaceful not worrying about hosting the family anymore?" She blinked, confused. "Oh, so you're really stepping back?" I smiled and sipped my tea. "I'm exactly where they asked me to be. Out of their way. Word travels fast in small towns. By Monday morning, Rachel's cryptic Facebook status read, "Be careful who you push away. Not everyone comes back." David emailed me. Not called. Emailed. "Mom, we really need to talk. The insurance lapsed. I got a fine." Rachel mentioned something about a trust. "What's going on?" I didn't reply, because when someone makes you a stranger, you don't owe them explanations. Instead, I printed out one final letter and mailed it to both their homes. "Dear David and Rachel, you taught me something I never expected to learn this late in life. That love without respect is just quiet cruelty. You chose to move forward without me. So now I'm doing the same. Please do not contact me unless it's for something truly urgent. I am fine. I am free. And I am finished pretending. With grace." Mom. It wasn't revenge. It was recognition of who they really were and who I had always been until I stopped being convenient. It was a rainy Monday when it arrived. An envelope, hand-addressed in neat blue ink. Not a bill. Not a flyer. No return address. I opened it slowly, sitting at the same kitchen table where I used to pack school lunches and sign permission slips. Inside was a folded piece of paper. One line across the top. Written in that uneven, half-cursive script only one person in the world still used. "Grandma, can I still come over?" Rachel. My hands trembled. It was simple, innocent, but it hit like a thunderclap. It wasn't a text. It wasn't some social media post designed for sympathy clicks. It was a letter. A real one, thought out, sent with purpose. She had written it, licked the envelope, mailed it, because she wanted to make sure I knew she still saw me. That night, I sat by the window as rain danced against the glass, thinking about the decades I'd spent bending myself into a version of mother and grandmother that made everyone else comfortable. Always available, always saying yes, always smiling through the slights. But now, I wasn't bitter. I was awake, and that one sentence from Rachel, it reminded me of the version of family I still believed in. The next Saturday, I picked her up from school in my old Ford. She ran across the parking lot with the kind of joy that can't be faked. We went to the farmer's market, bought peaches and honey, picked out a jar of her favorite pickles. We sat on a bench under a tree and she told me about her classes. Her friends, the boy she maybe liked. "But don't tell Mom," I promised. Later, back at my house, I handed her a little box. Inside was a key. To my home, to my heart, to everything they tried to take from me. But couldn't. "This is yours," I told her. "You don't need to knock anymore." She looked up, eyes full. "I'll never forget you, Grandma." I smiled, holding her hand. "I know, sweetheart. And that's why you never need to earn your place here. You already have it." The final piece fell into place that evening. I got a call from an unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail. But something told me to answer. "Hello?" A soft voice. "Linda?" I froze. It was him, my ex-husband, Karen. We hadn't spoken in years. "I heard what happened," he said. "About the reunion. About the kids." I'm sorry. I didn't know they'd treat you that way." Silence stretched between us like a taut thread. Then he said, "You didn't deserve that. Not after everything you did for this family." It was strange, hearing him say those words after all these years. He hadn't defended me at the reunion. He hadn't even noticed my absence. But now, hearing my name in his voice, tinged with regret, felt like closing a book I'd kept open too long. "Thank you," I said, "but I'm okay now. I'd like to make things right." He said. I smiled politely. "Some doors don't open again, Karen, but I wish you peace." And then I hung up. I'd given so many people chances to rewrite the story. Now I was writing my own ending. One built on respect, on honesty, on knowing your worth, even when the people closest to you forget it. A few months later, I hosted a dinner in my backyard. Friends, neighbors, Rachel by my side, laughter under string lights, music playing softly from an old speaker. Not a single person asked where my children were. And for once, I didn't feel like something was missing. I felt full. I felt seen. I felt home. Transcribed by turboscribe.ai. Go unlimited to remove this message.